Creating seamless experiences is always the aspirational goal.
Hello, and welcome to another conversation with short, impactful discussions with CX leaders and innovators on how to prepare for tomorrow's consumer based on what we know today. Today's topic, building a seamless digital experience. In my time at iAdvise, one of the most outstanding themes we encounter constantly is how do we ensure that every customer touchpoint feels like and provides our brand energy? Some companies have succeeded there. I'm pleased to introduce Ajit Sivadasan, founding executor of Lenovo's global online strategy for the last 14 years. He's led a global team that has helped craft and drive Lenovo's global online sales from 5 countries to 35 countries, and of course, Lenovo's footprint into 90 countries. During this period, revenues and profits have grown by over 10x. And frankly, I like to pick on Lenovo in this way, but if you know someone who owns a Lenovo, they're usually also telling you how much they like their Lenovo product. Ajit, it's a pleasure. Thanks for joining us to talk through your seamless experience. How are you today?
I'm very well. Thank you for the invitation and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. It's again, you've got something obviously to be very proud of. So we're very grateful to have you talk about the seamless digital experience you've been able to create at Lenovo. Before we actually dive in, how have you been learning, staying engaged, challenging yourself the past 14 months?
Yeah, like everybody else, I haven't been on a plane or been to the office in the last a year and a few months. So, look, I've taken the opportunity to spend more time with people. So I've been
Hmm.
spending a lot more one-on-one time. I've spent a lot of time in roundtables with my staff. Spend a lot of time with my friends and family. One thing that is sobering is when you realize that you're facing an existential crisis. I think people become more human and they
Right,
become more empathetic, and you realize that a lot of people actually need help, and sometimes you
right.
need help. So, one of the things that I have done, at least I'm trying to do, is to spend more time talking to people and really understanding their problems and being more patient.
Hmm.
But other than that, I've taken on walking, which I never used to do. So I walk every day, take a few calls while I'm walking, listen to a
Hmm.
lot more online content. I'm working on my golf game, so that helps. So, look, it is really trying to figure out how to leverage the people around you the best you can, and in some small ways help them where you can.
Yeah, we were talking to Joseph Michelli about this a few weeks back because he had a big point on there has been some good to come of this, right? Of the pandemic. And I think you're hitting the nail on the head. There's been a sort of humanization throughout our own lives. We're starting to try to connect more and look for that human engagement, right?
Yep. Yep.
Um, now, of course, as the mastermind behind Lenovo's online strategy, I don't want to talk Lenovo, but I do want to put you in the seat of a consumer for a second. Have you had any memorable digital experiences lately?
Yeah, look, I think the experiences that come to mind are mostly consumer product driven experiences. I'm a big
Hmm.
fan of Nordstrom, if you know the shopping giant, and
Yep.
they have an online site called Hot Look, which basically sells fashion for cheap,
Hmm.
brands for cheap. And quite frankly, I think they are one of the most compelling buying experiences that I've basically shown my team and experienced it many times myself. It's
Hmm.
seamless, it's easy, it's intuitive. Um, and then the other one that I really like is Vivino, which is a wine app. So I buy most of my wine online, and I've been using the app as a way of kind of understanding different types of wines and trying to find some good deals. And so it kind of just shows you the evolution of the mobile interfaces, especially, and how people are evolving to have very, very compelling and very, very seamless experiences that basically make you a fan for life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And we were talking to Brian Solis about this recently too. McKinsey noted that 75% of consumers have changed who they're buying from during this pandemic. And I think if you've got that memorable opportunity, memorable experience, you have a big opportunity at play to steal some loyalty from other brands, right?
Absolutely.
So Ajit, don't pick on me. It wasn't my choice. I got to this company and they gave me a MacBook. So don't yell at me about that. But nonetheless, before we actually dive into the seamless experience you've created, do me a favor, introduce Lenovo a bit and tell us a bit about your existing CX and why it's unique.
Well, Lenovo, for those that don't know Lenovo, Lenovo came into the scene in 2005 with this acquisition of the IBM PC business.
Mm,
And at the time, the combined company was 13.5 billion. We are now, in the last 15 years, grown from a $13 billion company to a $50 billion company. We have added Motorola, the iconic phone maker. We
mm,
purchased them from Google. We bought the System X, which is the server business from IBM. So look, Lenovo was a PC seller, for lack of a better term, and now we are a IT company. And our entire transformation is really trying to figure out how to build connections with end user customers on the phone side, um, on the on the PC side, but also then build very compelling relationship with enterprise customers who are looking to buy data center products and storage and all of the
mm.
cool technology that we sell, and in some ways also connect the three together where opportunities present, so it becomes a one-stop shop for many of our customers, like small and
Right.
medium customers and some of the enterprise customers. They want to buy everything that we can provide from a technology standpoint. So that's a little story about how Lenovo has kind of progressed from being a single dimensional company to being a much more of a broader market leader in technology.
And so obviously that's a perfect segue to my next comment. What are some of the challenges in creating a holistic experience across and throughout the Lenovo brand that you've seen with all this movement?
Yeah, look, I mean, like with any company of our size, creating seamless experiences is always the aspirational goal, but you always
Right.
evolve because the market is changing so much, the product set is changing. We are doing acquisitions, new customers are coming online. So it's a very, very dynamic marketplace. And what you realize is it's a job that is never done. So
Mm,
you solve three problems, you have new problems that prop up. So you're always evolving. So I would never say that our journey is seamless. I would never say that our journey is done. But
mm,
in relative terms, if I look at where we were a few years ago versus where we are, we have made progress. And I'm sure in 2 years' time we will evolve even more. But constantly, what we are really trying to do is to evolve customer experiences end to end, and
right.
that's very, very challenging when you talk about a global company where we have real footprint in, like, 165 countries. Trying to connect our stores, retail strategy, our phone experience,
Mm,
our server experience for our enterprise customers, all of that stuff, it's fairly complex and it requires a lot of integration between legacy systems, new systems. When we acquire new customers, we need to make sure that we account for connecting with those legacy systems. So in no way am I going to ever claim that, look, our experiences are seamless, but
right.
have we made progress? Absolutely. Are we ambitious about improving things? Absolutely. Do we have big plans in terms of investing and trying to correct the experience and make them even more seamless? Absolutely. But
Mm.
it is a difficult task. It is a never-ending task, and it's always evolving because the landscape is so dynamic.
Yeah, and so with all of this, Ajit, how are you measuring this? How do you kind of do you have a ubiquitous measurement across the brands and the experiences that you kind of keep on track with?
Yeah, so the way we think about customer experience, because we have such disparate set of customers, some of them
Right,
are direct, who buy directly from us, some of them buy from the channel, some of them buy
right.
in retail. So our products are everywhere, right? You think about, yeah, we are a truly omni-channel company. So we have
Mm,
all the go-to-markets that's there. And so measurement is different for different people. So enterprise customer measurement is different than transactional customers that come online versus somebody who buys from retail. So
right,
we have over a last over the last 3 or 4 years painfully mapped out what is the best way in which we can get customer feedback, and therefore use that feedback to then kind of drive the brand, drive product experience, drive the customer experience. So it depends from group to group, but the one good thing is everybody has something that is connected to the end user that we
right.
measure on a pretty regular basis. In fact, to the point where all of the people at Lenovo get paid a bonus component based on customer experience. And usually, I mean, we look at net promoter score as a metric. Sometimes we look at purchase experience as a metric. Sometimes web experience as a metric. The metrics might change, but we are all trying to get to the essence of the customer sentiment, which is
Right.
really, really what we are most interested in.
Yeah. So of course that I'll take that as one of your best practices for trying to build a single cohesive digital experience. Anything else that you would add to the plate?
No, I mean it is. It is a difficult process because it's like
Right.
herding cats. I mean, you got so many things that you need to worry about, and there are so many challenges. So one size doesn't fit everybody. So you need to
Mm.
have flexible design for your customer experience measurement systems. You need to be patient. Sometimes you put something out there and you realize that that probably wasn't capturing what you need to capture. Since some of the employees are being paid on some of these things, you want to make sure that they feel fair about the process, and you need to be flexible enough to change as you find new things. So whatever the
Right.
design is, it's really important for you to evolve the design to kind of be that much more closer to your customer and get the right inputs so that you can actually then improve the things that you're trying to improve.
Yeah, and you used a good word there, flexibility. We've heard that an awful lot, right? Because you need to be able to adapt, change, and move quickly. And I think we saw in the past 13, 14 months, a few brands or companies that may have been a little more resistant and have been struggling to keep up ever since to that need for flexibility.
Yeah.
I wanted to, get into your brain a bit, Ajit, on the connection between physical stores and the online experience. From our own discussions here, we've talked and heard from the North Face, New Balance, two running and outdoor examples of essentially testing the digital associate or in-store associate digitally. How are you at this point kind of working through the connection between the physical store and the online experience? Because, of course, now the online experience, that's often the first touch point, right? This is the first exposure to the brand. How do we connect those two?
Yeah, so I mean, it depends country to country and region to region. It
Right.
depends on your own infrastructure. So I'll give you an example. In China, as an example, we have 30,000 stores, and those are our stores that we own. So they're, omni-channel, where somebody buys something online and then goes to the store to pick up, or somebody goes to the store and wants to have a product that's online. You figure out how to make those connections, and we have. So, but there are various business models around this, and it just depends based on local regulations. It depends on the customer sophistication. It depends on whether you own the store or whether it's a store that's owned by somebody else. So depending on what the situation is on the ground, and you cannot replicate, one business model and apply it universally and at scale to all the countries.
Mm.
So we have many variations of this model, right? So we call it O2O, which is online to offline. We say OMO, which is online merged with offline. We have several programs where we allow our resellers to kind of buy directly from us. So it's a continuum of solutions and problems that we are trying to solve. One size doesn't fit everybody.
Right.
What you really need to do is to understand, for the market that you are trying to address, what is the right solution that allows the customers the ease and the convenience, and on the other hand allows brands to actually fulfill its promise in terms of what is it that you're trying to do with the customer. So we have at least 3 or 4 models, and we've been experimenting with the various models, especially as COVID hit. We realized that there were many countries, like as an example, India, went through lockdown, still in lockdown. So in those situations, you find out that some of the online stores actually play a much bigger part than the offline stores, because the offline
Mm.
stores are closed. But going forward, when things get back to normal, the idea is to really figure out how do you serve your customers best, whether it's
Right.
online or offline, and what is the right business model that you need to have in that particular country, accounting for privacy, accounting for regulatory hurdles that you might have in some countries, accounting for data issues, and quite frankly, investments that are needed to actually make some of these things more seamless.
So let's talk about turning visitors into advocates. Ajit, we saw, as I mentioned before, loyalty has been thrown out the window, and if you can turn someone, a non-loyal customer, into a loyal and advocate customer of yours, Big win, right? Tremendous opportunity for a lot of brands. How are you doing this with your end-to-end customer journey today? How are you really seeing this?
Yeah, I mean, again, everybody is in a different stage of maturity, and
Right.
so it depends on country to country, right? So China, as an example, is one of our oldest countries that we have had a business in, and there, loyalty and advocacy is probably the highest. You know, our market share in China is over 40%. We have
Mm,
deep loyalty from our customers. And maybe it's evolving in many parts of the rest of the world where they are in varying stages of maturity. But regardless, the whole point that we clearly understand is that it's not enough to just make great products. It's just the starting point when you make good products, and then you want to connect with the customer, because look, the customer life cycle for us is about 3 years. The customer buys a product, we need to make sure that the buying experience is good. Then the customer
mm,
uses the product for a period of time. During that time, things may break. They may have support questions, they may have the need for adding some things. You need to make sure that you manage the life cycle of that customer properly. Now, if you
mm,
don't have the data and you don't have a mechanism to connect with them in an environment that you have their information, then it becomes kind of tricky. So CRM kind of becomes a very, very crucial foundational element for you to kind of manage that customer lifecycle. Now, it gets even more difficult when you don't own the customer at all. Like, as an example, when you're selling something through retail. I mean,
right.
so you go to a Best Buy and you buy a Lenovo product. I mean, unless the customer registers with us, we don't know who this customer is. So our ability to actually monitor social media and being able to open to, whether it's Twitter or LinkedIn or Facebook, because I get feedback and I get asked for help in pretty much all of the social media interfaces. So
Right.
your ability to listen to the customer, by the way, at an individual level, but also in aggregate, because you can kind of you can create a cloud of kind of the input that comes from the customers, but you need to then figure out how to focus on the things that are the biggest opportunity. So your ability to listen to the customer end to end across all of the formats that they might be available and giving feedback on is really, really
Mm,
crucial. And that's kind of what we are doing. We are in some cases we have direct feedback. It's much more easier. We send a survey, we get a feedback. When it comes
right.
to the web, people are browsing the web, they leave feedback, they may not give you the name. So our ability to collect that information and then look relative to all the other customers, is that something that is coming out time and time again? And our ability to kind of understand that quickly and then take actions is really important. If it is when we talk about global accounts or some of our enterprise class accounts, I mean, there is a rep, there is an account management team, so it's a little bit more easier because you're always talking to the customer and the customer gives you feedback much more directly. So
Right.
again, it is from selling one unit to selling a huge data center. The experience around customers is very, very different.
Right.
Your job as a keeper of a route to market is to really understand the touch points and then monitor them, and then be able to leverage all of the resources you have to be able to influence, help them, and then really keep turning them, keep validating their purchase of your product as the right step they took, right? Because it's
Mm,
easy for somebody to buy a product and then get really frustrated. And then when they're trying to reach you for help, if you're not there to help them, then it becomes really, really difficult to salvage that relationship. So
of course.
everything that you try to do is to really be upfront with the customer, get input. When they are giving input but not directly to you, understand what they are actually giving in aggregate, and then figure out how to take steps to kind of remove the friction and make it more seamless incrementally. Every single day, a little by little, you try to make the journey a lot more simpler. And what I find is that when you are proactive in creating a community, as an example, which we are doing with gaming and for SMB customers and for students, you have the opportunity to also leverage communities as a way of giving feedback, soliciting feedback, but then using them to also then drive the brand differently than what you would do when you just kind of sell them something and then forget about them, right? So the idea is to really drive engagement with the audience.
Yeah, so you touched on it. Let's get to gaming and Legion. There's a lot of buzz around Legion lately. How have you been building out this community of Lenovo gamers, for Lenovo gamers as well?
Yeah, I mean, the gaming community is a very sophisticated, highly tech oriented, spending a lot of time and a lot of money online and otherwise trying to kind of do the things that they like to do. From
Right.
their standpoint, gaming is a way of life in many cases. Whether it's a student, whether it's a true gamer, whether it's a company executive, if you talk to gamers, they all light up when you talk about gaming because they're
Right.
so passionate. It's part of kind of their, in some ways, kind of their personality. And so it's a little bit more than just an activity for them, right? If you're a hardcore gamer, it's truly a way of life for them. So for us, the aha moment was people come buy a product, they leave, but then we never really have the opportunity to facilitate conversations between and amongst the gamers. So what we really are trying to do is get all of the people who are part of the Legion community or people who own the Legion brand to be able to talk to each other, participate in things that they think are important,
Right.
participate in some of the things that we want to do with gamers, which is around esports, trying to get them to understand how our products are going to make that gaming experience that much better. Now, my own view is that the community is one aspect. It brings everybody together. It allows people to exchange ideas. It allows them to talk to us. It allows them to talk to each other. But then it allows our product managers to talk to the community about the new products that are coming out. It allows us to talk about streaming services. It allows us to then get them excited about how Lenovo might be able to give them game titles. So the whole conversation is around engagement. You're almost impossible to do that without having something like a community where you can get the people together and have a real conversation. So that's really what we're trying to do. We started out quite small. We are piloting in 3 countries, but our aim is to really scale this to all the countries where we actually have people using our Legion products.
Yeah, and I mean, what a great way to get feedback, right, from some of your passionate, loyal customers and users, right? It's a great way to not only get feedbacks on future products, but things that they might suggest. I can imagine super valuable for your product team.
Oh, absolutely. And our idea, my idea in the past has been, we've also even tried to do some crowdsourcing with gamers where
Mm.
they actually source ideas for us, right? Because they have a point. They are all very, very opinionated. They have very specific
Right.
opinions about both the gaming part and the products. So they are the best people who can give us feedback that really helps us create and craft that experience that gamers kind of want. So
Right.
to me, it's a great forum where we can drive that engagement. Now, the difficult part is we have to provide content. We have to provide a platform that allows us to kind of continue to drive that engagement. We need to make sure that we are bringing in our partners that have different parts of the ecosystem into the conversation. We need to humanize some of these conversations to be not as a brand with gamers or not as a brand and customers, but more
Mm.
of a, hey, here's your interest. What more can we do to make this interest more compelling?
Right. And I like your use of conversation. That's something very big at our heart over here at I Advise Ajit.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
Absolutely.
Any other
Gamers are
20?
finicky, right? I mean, they see through corporate BS very quickly.
Oh, yeah.
So if you try to oversell them on something, right, they quickly retract. So you have to really pay attention to what they are saying without becoming the center of the conversation. So
Of course.
my job is to figure out, in some ways, facilitating conversations and then looking at things from far to really glean some insights and then being able to change things that we are doing in a way that's more compelling.
Mm. Yeah, and authenticity, definitely, right?
That's right. That's right.
Someone like Fritz, who I can pick on for being a bit of a gamer as well, I do trust that he'd be able to sniff that out, like you were saying before.
Yep.
Any other 2021 aspirations that you have for the company, Ajit?
Yeah. Look, I mean, Lenovo is we just had a massive reorganization. We
Mm.
have, 2 or 3 key items that we are really focused on is solutions, which is really trying to figure out how to solve customer problems. So bringing our products across, the PC side of the house, the server side of the house, and the phone side of the house, and then figuring out how to build a services-led transformation that truly tries to solve customer problems. And it becomes even more important when you're talking to the customers more directly. So from an online standpoint, the big priority for me is to really try and figure out how to scale some of the things we talked about: customer experience, communities, loyalty. How do we make sure that we are recognizing that people are buying things from us, and how do we reward them? So if an SMB customer comes to us and they continue to buy from us, we need to make sure that we are taking care of them in for that loyalty. So it really is trying to take the key pillars that we have been driving for the last several years and trying to drive to scale, and trying to really, really get the customers' engagement going, so that we are able to build what I call advocacy, right? Which I think some brands do very well, and I think we are beginning to turn the corner on that. And if you really think about ThinkPad, I mean, we have got a ThinkPad forum that has over 20 million people. So we have got some iconic brands, whether it's ThinkPad, Yoga, Moto. What we need is to facilitate those conversations with our end users.
Excellent. Ajit, I want to be very respectful of your time. I know we got a little bit of a later start today than we usually like to, so thank you so much. It was an absolute pleasure to have you here. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk about Lenovo.
Yeah, yes, sir. Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning in. It was a pleasure again to talk to Ajit Sivadasan, the founding executive of Lenovo's global online strategy. And today's topic was building a seamless digital experience, and specifically looking at Lenovo's success there. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you next week at 11 a.m. Eastern.